Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I'm a former military member who served 2 tours overseas. After coming back home, I decided to settle down in a quiet town and started working as a security consultant. Given my background and the nature of my work, I always made sure to maintain my concealed carry permit and regularly practice at the range. Not because I'm paranoid, but because I believe in being prepared. My girlfriend and I were having a pretty normal Saturday. We were out shopping for her niece's birthday. The little one was turning 2, and we wanted to get her something special. We'd already picked up some groceries and kitchen stuff, and our last stop was this clothing store at the mall. Everything was going fine until we heard screaming behind us as we were heading to check out. We turned around to find a woman yelling at us, calling my girlfriend a filthy witch, and saying she couldn't wear those kinds of clothes in public. This woman looked like she'd raided both a jewelry store and a makeup counter, dragging along a kid who was wearing clothes that looked like they'd been passed down through 3 different families. The contrast was jarring to say the least. I tried to be civil, telling her not to use that kind of language to describe my girlfriend, especially around her kid. I also pointed out that my girlfriend's clothing choices were her own business and asked her to leave us alone. The woman's response was to screech about being an elder and demanding that we had to listen to her because of it. My girlfriend attempted to be diplomatic, suggesting that we might have been more receptive if she'd approached us instead of yelling like a banshee on crack. That really set her off. She started ranting about being our superior due to her age, claiming we were undisciplined people who needed to listen to her. She went on about how her precious baby shouldn't have to see what she called a trashy woman in such clothes, insisting we would taint his mind. We decided to just walk away at that point. As we left, we could hear her sputtering threats about how we'd be sent to hell one way or another. That comment made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Years of combat experience had taught me to trust my instincts when something felt off. After checking out, we headed to the parking lot. That's when we heard her telling her child to get in the car because she had some problems to deal with. We tried to ignore it, but then she shouted that she would cut those clothes off us herself, calling us filthy people. I turned around to see her waddling toward us with a knife. My training kicked in immediately. I told my girlfriend to call the police, and she quickly ducked behind a car. I called out to the woman to stop, demanding that she put the knife away. She kept coming. I warned her again, telling her that nobody needed to get hurt. When she still didn't stop, I drew my concealed carry. Even then, I tried to reason with her, pleading with her to walk away. I reminded her about her kid, begging her not to make him lose his mother over something so stupid. She responded by threatening to have me arrested for drawing a dangerous weapon on what she called a law-abiding citizen who was just trying to teach us a lesson. Finally, she backed off, though not before screaming more threats. The police arrived quickly after my girlfriend's call. They put me in the back of a cruiser while they sorted things out. No handcuffs, just standard procedure. The mall's security cameras caught everything, showing clear as day how she'd approached us with a knife unprovoked. They took my firearm as evidence, which I completely understood. One of the officers actually commended me on my trigger discipline and how I handled the situation. She was arrested and charged with aggravated assault, and because she'd done this with her kid present, they added child endangerment to the charges. Her ex-husband used this incident to get full custody of their son. She's now facing some serious jail time, and her kid is finally in a stable environment. My firearm was returned to me after 3 months when the case concluded. The judge actually used my case as an example of responsible gun ownership, showing restraint, trying to de-escalate, and only drawing as an absolute last resort. Still, I hope I never have to draw my weapon again, especially not over something as ridiculous as someone being offended by clothing choices. I've been working in hospitality for over 15 years, and I've seen my fair share of entitled customers. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened during last Sunday's brunch service at our upscale restaurant. I'm the head waitress, and I take pride in maintaining order in our dining room. We're known for our peaceful atmosphere and excellent service, especially during our weekend brunches, which attract many families and elderly patrons celebrating special occasions. That Sunday started normally enough. We had a full house, including a large group of seniors celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. Everything was running smoothly until they walked in. A family of four led by a woman wearing expensive clothes and impossibly high heels. I should have known something was off when she demanded our best table despite not having a reservation. My colleague seated them in the only available space, and within minutes, their table erupted into chaos. The mother, let's call her Karen, started berating her husband about their children's discipline. She blamed him for never disciplining them properly, while he fired back that she was the one who let them do whatever they wanted. They went back and forth, each blaming the other for their children's behavior. Then it happened. Their older son, who couldn't have been more than 9, suddenly exploded. He punched his sibling, kicked his father, and took off running through the restaurant like a tornado. Karen occasionally yelled at her son to stop throwing things, but made no real effort to stop him. The boy just taunted back that no one could catch him as he continued his rampage. He ran through this restaurant, knocking over plates, yanking tablecloths, and screaming at anyone who tried to stop him. He even shoved a toddler who was in his path. The boy kept screaming death threats at anyone who came near him, making shooting gestures with his hands and making explosion noises. My colleagues tried to corner him, but he was surprisingly agile. He managed to dodge them all while continuing his path of destruction. When 2 of our patrons tried to help catch him, he punched one in the groin and kicked another in the shin. When an elderly lady approached Karen about controlling her child, Karen just scoffed and sarcastically asked if she was supposed to run after him in her expensive heels. The situation got even worse when the boy reached the anniversary party's table. He pulled their tablecloths, sending food flying everywhere. An elderly woman's dress was ruined with spinach, and her son's expensive suit was splattered with sauce. One of my younger colleagues nearly caught him, but the boy slipped under a table and emerged on the other side, knocking over more furniture. I knew I had to do something. After 15 years of dealing with difficult customers, I wasn't about to let this child destroy our restaurant. I watched his pattern and noticed he was making his way back toward the anniversary party. While everyone was focused on his front, I circled around and waited. When he started pulling more tablecloths, I saw my chance. I lunged forward and managed to grab him. The boy thrashed in my arms, screaming threats and trying to break free. An elderly gentleman helped me secure his legs. That's when Karen finally decided to get involved by attacking me. She started screaming about how I was hurting her baby while clawing at my face and pulling my hair. She threatened to sue me and have me fired for touching her son. Thankfully, one of our regular customers pulled her away, but she kept trying to kick me and shouting threats. The police arrived within minutes. After reviewing our security footage and taking statements from dozens of witnesses, they arrested Karen. She ended up having to pay for all the damage her son caused, which included 14 broken plates, 8 damaged tablecloths, 3 ruined outfits from other patrons, 5 broken glasses, 2 damaged chairs. Compensation for the anniversary party's ruined celebration. I also pressed charges against her for assault. She was found guilty and sentenced to community service plus anger management classes. Her husband filed for divorce shortly after, and I heard he got full custody of both children. The boy was enrolled in behavioral therapy, which is exactly what he needed. The restaurant now has a strict policy about uncontrolled children, and we've had many customers thank us for maintaining order. The anniversary party came back the next month for a proper celebration. On the house, of course. This time without any unwanted entertainment. Being a stay-at-home mom can be challenging, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. My husband and I both agreed that one of us should be there for our kids' early years, and since his job as a software engineer provided enough for us to live comfortably, I put my teaching career on hold. Our daughter is 5, and our son just turned 2. We try to make every weekend special for them with different activities. This Saturday was freezing cold, definitely not park weather. After some discussion over breakfast, my husband suggested we take the kids to the local children's museum. It had been a while since our last visit, and the kids always had a blast there. Plus, being indoors meant we wouldn't have to bundle them up like little Eskimos. We arrived just after opening time, hoping to beat the crowd. The museum was fairly quiet, which was perfect for us. My daughter immediately dragged her dad off to the big kids section, while my son, being the mama's boy he is, clung to my hip. I took him to the toddler area, which was perfect for his age. The first half hour was amazing. All the parents were sharing toys, helping each other's kids, and creating this wonderful community vibe. My son was having the time of his life, and I was chatting with other parents while keeping an eye on him. It felt like how parenting should be. A village raising children together. Then she walked in, a woman with twin boys sporting identical bowl cuts. Her husband immediately wandered off with one of the twins while she planted herself on a bench with her phone. Right away, something felt off about her energy. When other kids approached her, she'd just stare at them until they walked away. Not exactly the warmest person in the room. I tried to ignore her, but then Bowl Cut 2 started causing trouble. He pushed down a kid and snatched the toy from a little girl who couldn't have been more than 3. The mother just looked up and went back to her phone. A few minutes later, at the mini seesaw, the same kid bit another child and pushed them off. Again, his mother barely looked up from her screen. I turned to another parent and commented on the mother's complete lack of intervention. The other parent agreed, suggesting we should probably move to another area. 3 families had already left because of this chaos. But I stayed since my son was too little for the other sections. I kept him close, thinking we could avoid the trouble. Out of nowhere, Bowl Cut 1 charged at us like a tiny savage, bit my son's arm, and tried to pull him down by his shirt. My son screamed, "Monster!" and I scooped him up immediately. Then this kid started biting my leg. I shouted at the mother to grab her kid, having to repeat myself since she seemed in no hurry to respond. She finally walked over, taking her sweet time, and gently pulled her son aside like he'd just dropped a crayon instead of assaulting people. I'd had enough and was gathering our things when she approached me. She had the nerve to complain about me yelling at her. I fired back, comparing her kid's behavior to that of a dog and pointing out her failure to stop him from hitting other children. She tried to excuse herself by saying she had 2 kids and couldn't watch them both. I reminded her that she and her husband could each watch 1 child, just like my husband and I did with our 2 kids. When I tried to walk away, she kept following me, defending her son's behavior by saying he was just a child. When I dismissed her and told her to go enjoy her Saturday, she completely lost it. She started screaming about me being a disgusting teen mom of 2, which was laughable since I'm 27. When I told her to please F off, she started shrieking about profanity. I called her old lady and tried to leave, but she kept following me, loudly proclaiming how much she didn't appreciate my attitude. She continued following us, screeching incoherently. I was too angry to even process her words anymore. My husband finally showed up, and they left, but not before trying to report me to staff. The other parents backed me up, telling the staff I was the only one who stood up to her. After reviewing the security footage, not only did they escort her out, but the manager personally apologized to me and my family. Apparently, this wasn't her first incident at the museum, and this time she earned herself a lifetime ban. They even gave us a free annual membership as compensation for the trouble. My son recovered quickly, though he still occasionally mentions the museum monster. We now visit different sections of the museum, and he's slowly getting more confident around other kids again. I guess being the bad guy who speaks up is exactly what's needed. It starts when I was struggling to find work in my field during the recession. A friend suggested I try restaurant management, pointing out that my organizational skills and ability to handle stress would be valuable assets. She wasn't wrong. I started as a crew member and worked my way up to service manager at one of the busiest locations of a popular Mexican grill chain in just 2 years. The pay was decent, the benefits were good, and I genuinely enjoyed the fast-paced environment. Plus, being pregnant with my first child, I needed the stability. This incident happened about 2 years ago. when I was 30 weeks pregnant. It was a Sunday morning, our second busiest shift of the week, and I was already having a rough day. Two of my line workers had called out sick, leaving us severely understaffed. I've been at the restaurant since 7 a.m., doing not only my job but covering for the missing staff as well. We were just finishing our prep work before opening at 11 when it happened. The side door, clearly marked employees only, swung open, and in walked this woman with 15 preteen girls trailing behind her. My cook immediately tensed up when he saw her. He later told me she was a regular during dinner shifts who constantly berated our Latino workers with racist comments. She walked up to the counter and imperiously announced that the girls could order whatever they wanted. Then she literally threw her credit card at me and turned to walk away. When I tried to explain that she needed to stay while I processed the order due to company policy, she didn't even look at me. Instead, she just flicked her hand dismissively and sat down at the table, absorbed in her phone. I was exhausted, my feet were swollen, and my unborn son was practicing his soccer moves against my ribs. Still, I waddled over to her table to try again. I barely got a few words out before she cut me off. With seething contempt, she told me that she didn't care what I charged as long as she got a receipt and threatened to get me fired if I interrupted her again. The contempt in her voice made my eyes water. Pregnancy hormones are no joke, and after the morning I'd had, I was barely holding it together. I managed to stammer out that I would ring up whatever they wanted and bring her the receipt. The girls were actually very polite, unlike their leader. Each one ordered double meat, chips with guacamole, and bottled water. My cashier and I exchanged knowing looks as we rang everything up, watching the total climb higher and higher. The final bill came to just over $250. I brought the receipt to Karen, who didn't even look at it. I took my chance to finally grab my break and told my cook to get me when the fireworks started. I was halfway through my lunch when I saw him on the security camera, doubled over with laughter. When I got back to the front, Karen was red-faced and screaming for a manager. Her face twisted with rage when she saw me approach. She choked out a demand for a refund, her voice shaking with anger. I explained that I couldn't do that since the food had been consumed, and reminded her that she had specifically said they could order anything they wanted as long as she got a receipt. She responded by calling me stupid and worthless, continuing to scream about the refund while holding up our growing lunch line. Other customers started yelling at her to leave, which only made her more aggressive. Then she did something that changed everything. She shoved me, hard. Thankfully, my quick-thinking cashier caught me before I could fall. What Karen didn't know was that two of our regular customers were off-duty police officers, and they'd seen everything. They immediately detained her. It turned out this woman was a youth group leader from a local church, and these were her charges. The police had to call all the parents to pick up their children while they arrested her. My general manager arrived and sent me home with full pay for the day. She tried to fight the charges, claiming I had deliberately overcharged her, but between the security footage, 20 witness statements, and the fact that she had assaulted a visibly pregnant woman in front of law enforcement, she didn't have a leg to stand on. She ended up with 3 years probation, lost her position at the church, and was banned from every location of our restaurant chain. The church ended up hiring my cousin as their new youth leader. She told me that Karen's replacement position came with a strict policy about respecting service workers and being mindful of spending church funds. I heard Karen still complains about me at her new church, but nobody takes her seriously anymore. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.